Toyota spent decades living by one strict rule inside its polished boardrooms in Japan. Build everything yourselves, control every single part of the process from the smallest bolt to the complete vehicle. Never depend on outsiders for anything that sits at the core of the car. That rule shaped the company for generations and helped turn Toyota into one of the most respected names in the entire auto industry. Yet right now, on the busy neon-lit streets of Beijing, a sleek Toyota electric sedan is gliding along with a battery pack made by its fiercest Chinese rival. The heart of that car carries the clear stamp of BYD's blade battery technology. To the outside world, this looks like the ultimate humiliation. It looks like clear proof that the longtime king of hybrid power has finally been dethroned by Chinese engineering. Many headlines treat it exactly that way. Look past those headlines and the reality is far more calculated and far more interesting. This is not a white flag of surrender. This is a careful masterclass in strategic survival. Toyota is borrowing its rival's sharpest blade so it can stay alive on the rival's home turf while it quietly continues forging its own next-generation weapons in the background. Why did the world's most self-reliant automaker decide to swallow its pride in this way? Is BYD's blade battery truly as tough and reliable as the public tests claim? And what is Toyota's real long-term endgame once the current pressure in China settles down? If you enjoy clear and honest breakdowns of how the global auto market is changing, hit the subscribe button right now so you never miss the next video. Now let us step back and examine exactly why even the most cautious car maker on the planet was forced into this unprecedented move. For a very long time, Toyota built its entire empire on the idea of total control. The famous Toyota production system turned ordinary supply chains into a precise science that every other major automaker studied and tried to copy. The Prius made the Toyota name almost synonymous with hybrid technology around the world. Full electric vehicles were treated with open skepticism for many years. Toyota preferred to bet on refined hybrids and on hydrogen fuel cell technology because its leaders were convinced the world was not yet ready to go all in on pure battery cars. Then China simply stopped waiting for anyone else. New energy vehicles, the official Chinese term that covers both pure electric cars and plug-in hybrids, officially crossed the 50% mark of total new car sales inside the country and then kept climbing higher. By the middle of 2026, the share of new energy vehicles in monthly retail sales had reached 60% and above for the first time. Ordinary combustion engine cars and even traditional hybrids began losing ground at a rapid pace. Toyota, together with other large foreign brands, watched their petrol and hybrid sales drop by 15 to 20% or more inside periods as short as 12 to 18 months. That kind of change is not a gentle long-term decline. It is a market flipping completely underneath your feet inside the span of a single product development cycle. For Toyota, the message that arrived from the Chinese market was blunt and impossible to ignore. Adapt immediately or get pushed out of the world's most important car market entirely. This is the part of the story that makes it genuinely fascinating. Toyota is not some struggling latecomer scrambling to catch up out of pure panic. This is the company that literally wrote the modern manual on manufacturing discipline and quality control. This is the company every other automaker studied carefully for decades, and yet even Toyota's carefully built playbook had no ready answer for how fast the Chinese electric vehicle market was moving. That is not a small admission. It is a clear signal that the entire industry's old rules had changed underneath everyone's feet, Toyota included. The battery sits right at the center of the difficulty. In a modern electric vehicle, the battery pack is not just another component, it is the single most expensive part of the entire car. In many cases, it accounts for 30 to 40% of the total production cost. Get that number wrong, and your profit margins disappear before you sell the first unit. So Toyota faced a brutal and unavoidable choice. It could try to build its own complete battery supply chain from the ground up, or it could buy the technology from someone who had already solved the problem. Building everything from zero would have meant investing billions of dollars in new capital. It would have meant spending years locking down reliable supplies of lithium, nickel, cobalt, and other critical materials. It would have meant climbing a manufacturing learning curve that is measured in years rather than months. None of that work happens overnight, and none of it happens cheaply. Toyota simply did not have those years available. Every single quarter spent constructing its own battery ecosystem from scratch would have been another quarter of steadily losing ground inside China while local competitors continued shipping new electric models in large numbers. Time, not money, was the real constraint. And time was the one resource Toyota could not manufacture on its own assembly lines. Think about this situation carefully from Toyota's position. You can throw almost unlimited capital at a brand new gigafactory if you choose to. What you cannot do is compress the many years it normally takes to stabilize production quality at high volume, to negotiate long-term raw material contracts under good terms, and to train an entire workforce that can build battery cells consistently and safely at scale. Meanwhile, the market you are trying to serve is changing in months rather than years. That fundamental mismatch between the speed of the market and the speed of traditional industrial development is exactly what pushed Toyota toward a partner that had already solved those problems. To understand why Toyota turned specifically to BYD, you first have to understand what BYD actually is and how it grew. BYD did not start life as a car company. It began in 1995, making rechargeable batteries for mobile phones, and only later expanded into the automobile business. That origin story matters a great deal because it means BYD controls its battery production completely in-house, from the raw cell chemistry all the way to the finished pack that goes into a vehicle. That vertical integration gives the company something almost no traditional rival can match. It delivers tight control over costs and the ability to iterate on designs quickly without waiting for outside suppliers to catch up. Now look at the chemistry itself. Most premium electric vehicles still lean heavily on nickel manganese cobalt batteries. Those packs can store more energy in the same physical space, which helps range, but they come at a higher price and they carry a real risk of thermal runaway if something goes wrong. BYD chose a different direction with lithium iron phosphate chemistry, commonly called LFP. The raw materials are cheaper. The chemistry is far more stable under heat and stress. The usable lifespan is measured in thousands of full charge cycles rather than a smaller number, and there is no dependence on scarce and expensive metals such as cobalt. Then there is the physical design that gives the battery its well-known name. Instead of stacking bulky modules with empty space wasted between them, BYD uses a cell-to-pack approach. Long, thin cells are arranged like blades and placed directly inside the pack structure, completely skipping the intermediate module stage. That structural choice boosts the volumetric energy density of an LFP pack by roughly 50% compared with older traditional LFP designs, while also cutting bulk and improving overall packaging efficiency. Put those two advantages together, the cheaper and more stable chemistry plus the smarter structural layout, and the practical numbers become impressive. The Blade battery is rated to hold up for more than 3,000 full charge and discharge cycles. That figure is equivalent to well over 1.2 million kilometers of driving before the pack suffers meaningful capacity degradation. Because the design skips nickel and cobalt entirely, the battery also costs roughly 20 to 30% less to produce than a comparable nickel-based pack of the same energy capacity. For a company like Toyota that has always been obsessed with cost discipline and safety in equal measure, that combination is not merely attractive, it is close to unbeatable under current market conditions. If you want to see why this particular battery earned Toyota's trust, look at the famous nail penetration test. It is widely regarded as one of the industry's most brutal stress tests. A steel nail is driven straight through the middle of a fully charged battery cell. When a standard nickel manganese cobalt cell is punctured in exactly the same way, the temperature spikes past 500 degrees Celsius almost instantly and the cell erupts into violent flame. BYD's Blade battery, subjected to that identical test, holds a stable surface temperature somewhere between just 30 and 60 degrees Celsius. There is no smoke, there is no explosion, there's nothing dramatic at all. For Toyota, that single test result matters more than any performance specification sheet ever could. Toyota's entire global brand has been built for decades on one core word: reliability. A battery that can survive being physically punctured without turning into a fire hazard is not just impressive engineering. It is the precise kind of proof that allows Toyota to put its own badge on the finished car without hesitation or flinching. And because lithium iron phosphate chemistry is inherently cheaper to produce at scale, the same technology also lets Toyota compete effectively on price inside a Chinese market that is currently locked in a brutal and ongoing price war. This alliance between the two companies is not some hurried handshake deal born purely out of desperation. The relationship goes back to 2019 when Toyota and BYD formally created BYD Toyota EV Technology Company Limited, a balanced 50-50 joint venture built specifically for shared research and development work. The division of labor inside that joint venture is straightforward and logical. BYD brings the core electric vehicle platform, the Blade battery itself, the electric motors, and the bulk of the software integration. Toyota brings its deep vehicle engineering knowledge, its suspension and chassis tuning expertise, its own strict quality control standards, and, critically, decades of hard-earned brand trust with ordinary buyers. The clearest real-world proof of the concept is the Toyota BZ3 sedan, a model built specifically for the Chinese market. Strip the car down to its essentials, and you will find BYD's battery and motor technology sitting underneath Toyota's body styling and final safety engineering. The pricing alone tells an important part of the story. Recent versions of the car start at roughly 109,800 yuan, which converts to something in the neighborhood of 15 to 16,000 United States dollars. That is an aggressively competitive number for any vehicle carrying a Toyota badge. Buyers can choose between a 49.9 kilowatt-hour pack or 65.3 kilowatt-hour Blade pack. Those options deliver somewhere between 517 and 616 kilometers of range on China's official CLTC test cycle. Fast charging from 30% to 80% can be completed in as little as 27 minutes under the right conditions. What makes the BZG3 significant is not merely that the car exists. It is what the car proves about the speed of adaptation. Toyota did not have to spend many extra years reinventing a complete electric platform from the ground up. It took a proven battery and motor system that had already been validated on Chinese roads, wrapped that system in the engineering rigor and quality control that Toyota is known for, and shipped a competitive product in a fraction of the usual development time. That is Toyota adapting successfully to Chinese market speed, without abandoning the standards its badge has always stood for. This is the point in the story where the auto industry's old rulebook simply stops applying. Toyota and BYD are direct competitors, fighting over many of the same customers every day. Yet here they are actively co-developing important technology together. Industry observers call this kind of relationship co-opetition. Rivals choose to cooperate in selected areas because pure and total rivalry is no longer survivable on its own in every market. Staying locked inside strict silos and refusing to work with a competitor on principle has become a luxury that none of the major players can fully afford any longer. The deal is not charity from BYD's side either. Partnering openly with Toyota validates BYD as a genuine Tier 1 global technology supplier. It is no longer seen only as a strong domestic Chinese car maker. It is now viewed as a company that serious global automakers are willing to build vehicles with. That kind of external validation is worth more to BYD's longer-term global ambitions than almost any traditional marketing campaign could buy. The arrangement also lets BYD monetize its large battery production capacity by selling packs and systems to outside original equipment manufacturer clients. Spare manufacturing capacity is turned into an additional revenue stream instead of being left idle. When you strip away all the surface-level headlines, this is not a story of one company simply bailing out another. It is the story of two companies that possess very different core strengths. One dominant in advanced battery technology and vertical integration, the other dominant in brand trust, vehicle engineering discipline, and global quality systems, recognizing that combining those strengths gets both of them further and faster than fighting each other in isolation ever could. So does this partnership mean Toyota has quietly given up on being an engineering leader in the long run? That is the question many skeptics keep asking online and in industry discussions. It is a fair question to raise. The more accurate reading of the situation, however, is pragmatism placed ahead of pure pride. Sacrificing a slice of complete self-sufficiency in the short term is a relatively small price to pay for staying relevant and competitive inside the world's most demanding car market. Because here is what is happening quietly behind the scenes, while the BZ3 and related models continue to roll off the production lines. Toyota is still pouring substantial resources into next-generation solid-state battery technology. The company continues to target a commercial launch window somewhere between 2027 and 2028. The published target specifications are ambitious. They include a driving range beyond 1,000 kilometers on a single charge, together with the ability to add most of that range back in roughly 10 minutes of fast charging. Solid-state batteries promise faster charging speeds, longer overall range, and even greater safety margins than the best liquid electrolyte lithium chemistries available today. Toyota has spent many years quietly positioning itself as one of the serious contenders in that particular technology race. The overall strategy is carefully layered, and once you see the layers clearly, it becomes hard to unsee them. Use BYD's already proven and cost-effective technology to survive the immediate electric vehicle wave inside China right now, without burning years of effort chasing a complete battery supply chain that starts from absolute zero. At the same time, keep the large global hybrid business generating strong cash flow. That hybrid business is something most pure Chinese electric specialists simply do not possess at the same scale. Toyota still sells more than 3.5 million hybrid vehicles worldwide every single year. Those sales generate billions of dollars in reliable net cash that can fund advanced research and development without ever putting the core financial health of the company at serious risk. That cash is then funneled into the technological leap that could eventually put Toyota back in front of the entire industry once solid-state batteries are ready for true mass production. This approach is not Toyota admitting permanent defeat. It is Toyota deliberately buying itself the runway it needs to win later on its own preferred terms, instead of being forced to fight today's intense market battle with tomorrow's still unfinished technology. Step back from the day-to-day details, and the larger picture becomes even clearer. Toyota's partnership with BYD was never a moment of simple weakness. It was a necessary and pragmatic pivot made by a company that proved willing to do whatever it takes to stay inside the game when its commercial survival in a critical market was genuinely on the line. The partnership also demonstrates just how far BYD itself has evolved. from an obscure maker of phone batteries into a genuine global power player in energy storage and vehicle technology. At the same time, it reveals a side of Toyota that the general public rarely sees, a capacity for ruthless agility the moment its commercial survival is actually threatened. The bigger lesson that emerges here goes well beyond these two individual companies, and even beyond the auto industry itself. In the current era, supply chain flexibility has quietly replaced the older ideal of absolute self-sufficiency as the real competitive edge. The automakers that continue clinging tightly to the traditional idea that everything must be designed and built completely in-house are the ones most likely to get left behind. The ones that remain willing to borrow, partner, adapt, and integrate outside strengths when necessary are the ones still standing when the dust of the transition finally settles. Adaptability is what wins in the brutal and fast-moving transition to electric mobility. The automotive throne does not automatically go to the company that insists on building every single part alone out of pure pride or historical habit. It goes to the company that is smart enough and flexible enough to use every useful weapon available to it, even when that weapon originally comes from its biggest rival. Pride, by itself, does not retain market share. The ability to adapt under pressure does. If this detailed breakdown has brought you real value and a clearer understanding of the forces reshaping the global car industry, hit that subscribe button right now so you do not miss our upcoming videos that dig even deeper into how companies like BYD transform themselves from obscure battery startups into the technology powerhouses that traditional automotive giants now choose to partner with. So here is the final question worth sitting with after everything we have examined. Is the decision by Toyota to use BYD's blade battery technology the smartest strategic move the Japanese company has made in the past decade? Or is it the first visible crack in an industrial empire that once refused to depend on anyone outside its own walls? Drop your honest take in the comments below. I genuinely want to hear which side of the argument you are on and why. Thanks for watching all the way to the end, and I will see you in the next one.